Welcome to Doodwadag, a show in cooperation with the Somaliland Ministry of Information, Culture and National Guidance. Our panellists today is Safia Jama, Ahmed Jama and Jamal Hassan. The topic we'll be discussing today is why does knife crime mainly involve boys and not girls? So what I want to ask our panellists is, do you believe this is connected to the lack of male role models in our community, or the way boys are treated compared to girls?
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to open it to the floor first of all. Let's say we'll go with Jamal first to answer that for us.
Assalamu alaikum. I think it's very difficult, to judge why we have this problem in the first instance. But secondly, speaking from a male's point of view, that I believe lack of role models is what we are suffering from as a community, especially coming from the ethnic minority, because what happens within our community, the youth don't really have people that they can look up to. They perceive Somali men as Uber drivers and people that work in retail. So I think from that angle, that's where we're suffering. However, girls, I wouldn't say they are treated better than boys, but knife crime is not something that is necessarily unique just to boys, because the girls may be carrying knives for the boys, but that's something I believe we will talk further on.
Yeah, thank you for your input. Ahmed?
Assalamu alaikum. I think it's just the same thing that Brother Jamal said. It's just about, for me, it's lack of education within the Somali community, within especially our parents, because within when kids carries knives and these kind of things and the parents don't really know the situations within the streets. But it's like if we come out more and we educate our kids through these problems and our parents through these problems, hopefully it will stop within time.
So you're saying basically lack of role models?
Yeah, lack of role models.
Okay. Sophia?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for inviting us both. I think it's a heavy topic, wallahi, and it's not one that you can just make up, just literally say this is the problem. But definitely we know with not just our community, with many other communities, that role models so fundamental and important in terms of, for us to aspire academically, for us to reach different potentials. So actually role models really important. We know that, not just from the Somali community. And yes, in the Somali community we have a huge problem where Somali men, whether they're actually, whether they're physically there in the house or not, actually Somali men are not up to what they should be doing. So they're not inspiring their kids, they're not talking or bonding with their kids. Therefore it really brings the topic of, it's about quality and it's about role model. But at the same time, I think on the other hand, going back to what you said, I think it's definitely, there's other aspect. The other part of your question that you mentioned before, it was either you said role model, or what was it, Amina?
Or the way boys are treated compared to girls.
So I think definitely culturally, without a doubt, 110%, we hold boys up, we treat them in a different way. So automatically, no matter what they do, a lot of women, and culturally, they don't see the negativity. So if a boy does something, where if the girl does it, we know it's name and shame and all the other stuff. So automatically, by default, we've got our golden boys and we allow them to go out, we allow them to roam the streets. So therefore, we put them by default in a position where they will fall into further negativity, and their role model becomes the streets, the people on the streets then.
Yeah. Thank you for your input.
Yeah.
Jamal, one question that I wanted to ask you is, if you could choose one specific variable as the root of cause of knife crime, what would it be?
I think it will be lack of awareness, because it's for the young boys, it's cool to carry a knife, but where they end up in terms of the theatre, when you do campaigns on what really happens, I think it's really important. So lack of awareness, lack of education. Yes, you can carry a knife. What's the end goal? So I think it's, again, as Brother Ahmed mentioned, that we need to do a lot of education. So I think creating awareness, because mental health we have awareness campaign, obesity we have campaigns, but knife crime in the Somali community, I think this is something that we ought to look at very, very urgently. So creating awareness, I would say.
Ahmed, how do you create awareness with Ispidal?
The certain things that we do as in Spedal, we do like workshops from awareness, like talking about knife crime, same thing that they were doing right here, giving these kids the platforms maybe to come and play football, give them like certain activities that they can come and do. But like I said before, it's the education part where if like what we do at Spedal, it's all about education, giving these kids that platform to come to us to like express themselves through football, through different other workshops, helping them with their CVs or certain things that they might need to do.
So, because you've worked with a lot of kids, what have they said to you? Why are the main reasons they are carrying knives? Or what causes them to carry knives?
Some of the kids that I spoke to, one of the reasons why they carry knives is one of them maybe to get more power.
Okay.
One of them maybe to get like more respect on the streets, that means more power on the streets.
Yeah.
One of them might be like, some of them might be afraid of, some of them might be vulnerable. And most likely some of the kids that are now 15 to 16, 18, they're vulnerable kids.
Yeah.
Most likely the older ones, they carry it because they got that power. They have some other people that's after them, that they carry it for protection.
Okay, all right, thank you. Safia, what about you? What would you think is the root cause of, or?
Well, like I said to you, there are so many issues, massive issues that does exist. But I think it's one of the main issues is if the parents aren't able, so the father's not there. We spoke about lack of role model, and the mum is so overstretched. She's dealing with lots of kids. She's dealing with, they not got to benefits, with shopping, with school. She's dealing with so many issues. Then we know that now we've cleared up the family issues with the family is so huge and wide. The only thing really then is that the rest of the community needs to get up, and we need to actually fill those gaps. So I think the biggest issue is the fact that professional Somalis, active Somalis that are competent and capable are not giving back to their community. So Isbedel that Ahmed mentioned actually is a movement. It's about, if you look at Isbedel, started last year in April following so many knife crimes that was in the community. And actually it was young Somali professionals that decided on Facebook, you probably saw the adverts on Facebook saying, we need to get active. We need to make sure that if there's a problem, that we need to make sure that we fill that gap. So mashallah, there's teachers, there's even doctors, there's nurses, there's community activists that are all involved, politicians that are all young Somalis that have decided we've got to solve our own problems instead of waiting for someone else to solve a problem. So if we know that mum can't do it and dad mum is overstretched and dad is not pulling up his socks and meeting his needs and responsibility, then really I think the main issue is the community is not stepping up to the step.
So how does Isbedel step up to the thing?
So Isbedel actually, mashallah, we've held a few events, but it's not about us actually reinventing a wheel. It's about making sure that when we hear Jamal doing something amazing or Ahmed doing something amazing, that we actually as a community unite. We unite not based on tribe, not based on what part of the Horn of Africa you're from. If you're a man, if you're a woman, it's not whether you've got kids or not. I mean, I've got kids of my own, I've got teenagers of my own that I've got that I'm worried about. At the same time, it's putting all that aside and making sure that as Somali community in London, in the UK, that we come together and we use each other's talent to make sure that we solve our own problems. No more should be waiting for the police or for teachers or other people to actually step up. It should be our responsibility. So if you ask me what the knife problem is, it's the fact that we've allowed problems to brew and everyone is just saying it's not my child, it's not my kid, it's not me, I'm okay. And my kids are fine at home. Mashallah, 20-year-old, 18-year-old, the 17-year-old, they're fine at home because I know system can go. I grew up in Tower Hamlets, so I know. But it's not about me. It's about me helping another Somali woman, making sure that she doesn't have to watch her child deteriorating from bad to worse.
Right. But you said it's been brewing. So what I want to find out is why has knife crime not suddenly, but is drastically increased the last decade? So
that's society somehow. It's a social side. So for example, if you've got drugs, that's the underlying issue. If we're being honest, it's about drugs, and then the drugs. A lot of Somalis are involved in that. A lot of young kids are involved in that. At the same time, it's if you look at simple Somali situations where the kids have ended up not finding safe haven at home. So hoidi ba magasa, bihi positive relationship and they're in an overcrowded house, so they're on the street. So therefore they're vulnerable to the different elements and the different factors, and that they find safe haven in GAN and so on. So then they're involved in negativity, and then the knife crime is a culture. Not only the Somalis, it's not just Somalis that have got knife crimes, but we hear Somalis because they're really getting involved in it more than maybe other communities. But there definitely is a problem that exists across many other communities.
Thank you. Going to you, Ahmed, what would you say is the main cause of, how do you think our culture has played a role in knife crime?
For me personally, and I would say like everything starts from the house. But it's like if we don't educate our kids from young, and our parents don't teach them the right path, or like don't teach them our culture and everything, they teach you, like when they go to school, these kids are learning something different. They're learning about different kind of things in school. But when they come home, most of our parents, we don't educate our kids, because back home, when we are in Somalia, we all eat together, we all sit together, we all like have a meal together. But back here, like everyone's coming from school, the boys coming from school, the girls coming from school, everybody's running to their room, one's gonna go on Fortnite, the other one's gonna go out, and then these kind of things there, and then there's no interaction with the kid, and then the parent is just there, quiet.
So what you're saying, is that there's a disconnect between the parents and the kids that are vulnerable. Having said that, I want to go back to one thing that was just mentioned. We asked about, I'm sure you got a nice branded t-shirt there.
Thanks.
I like that. In the last 10 years, knife crime has increased ridiculously. A lot of Somali kids have passed away in that time, and there's definitely certain things that have caused that, right? What do you think they are? Are there stuff like music?
I don't think
in the last 10 years
the blame is music or drill music, or you can blame it on any other thing. It's like I said before, these kids, they come out for a reason. They're on the streets for a reason. One of the reasons is to make money.
Yeah.
One of the reasons is that whole problems, everything starts from is drugs, money, and that's when the knife and everything comes in.
Right.
But it's like, it's not about these kids that music is drilling them. It's like I said before, it's about these kids, might be some of them being vulnerable, or some of them wanting that power. So if they stab someone, they get more they get more, and what's it called?
They feel like they've gained some reward.
They get more stripes. They get like more. They get
recognition.
More power. Yeah. So they get these kind of things there, and then the other ones that are vulnerable, they're carrying it because maybe they're scared. Like I said before, like these kind of things there. But it's like we go back to it. If we do the cultures of back home, and then we teach our kids what's right, and then when they come from school, we interact with them, we sit down with them, we talk with them. Certain things might have changed, because within like the organizations that I work with, like all the other organizations, what we do is they come together, they talk to these kids, we give them guidance, we give them advice. So these kind of things there, where parents need to come out, and like a lot of Somali parents, we don't come out and we don't say that my son is involved in this, or my son is not this. So the Somali parents need to come out and need to say that, yes, I'm having this problem, I need help with it.
Right.
And then this is the kind of ways that we can stop it.
So you feel like it lies with the parents to come out, to actively seek that help. Jamal, I wanted to ask you a question. Whose responsibility is it to actively work against knife crime? The government, the parents, the community?
This is a very difficult topic, or a solution. But one thing I will say is, as our sister Sophia touched upon, we need to stop relying on the government to come and save our kids, because they're not coming to save your kids. There's a lot of cuts in the last 6 years. 100 youth clubs have been closed. Theresa May has taken police off the streets. So really, if you say who's responsible, or who's responsible for saving our kids, I will say it's us. Us as young professionals really need to step up it doesn't matter if you're an accountant or an engineer. Surely you have something to give back to the kid that wants to become an engineer or an accountant or a doctor. So what I will say is that we need to connect. You know, Isbedel, as Ahmed and Safi were mentioning, they work across London. I do a lot of workshops for young kids or young people in Hampshire, Fulham Borough, Kingston, and Chelsea. So it would be good for me to connect with these organisations to give something to them. So I think it's very important that we understand we have the problem and we have the solution within us. And it's not, you don't. Another man doesn't feed your kids, so it's really you that feeds your own child. So it's really us that saves our children. That's what I believe.
Okay, thank you for your input. Safia, what signs do you think parents need to look out for?
I think the biggest problem is actually a lot of Somali parents have actually lost the relationship with their kids. And obviously, because they're not communicating, ma isla hadlayaan, xiriir ma ka jiro, somehow hooyadiiba, she doesn't even have that bond with her child, then it becomes hard for you to even spot any signs. If your child is in his room all the time playing a game, or when they're in the house, they're upstairs, or they're going outside, then how are you even going to notice a sign? So my biggest thing is you have to make sure because marka la xiriirtid, you can see little signs of, and that would give you the ability to kind of spot and work with those things. And I'll give you an example how far these parents are wallahi from their children. We did a drugs workshop with the Somali parents, with the mums specifically. And then with the mums, we had to say all these different drugs. This is, how cocaine looks like. This is what spliff looks like. And then, if you've seen those little gas laughing cans, the silver little thing. And then that was on the table. And mum's like, why is that on the table? And she said, why is that on the table? And they said, oh, because it's this. And but my son told me it's vitamins. So for her, wallahi, she's actually thinking this is okay, my son's actually taking vitamins, and that's because her knowledge is limited. So for her to even tell signs, she needs to build up her knowledge, her confidence, her understanding. And if she doesn't have the knowledge and understanding or confidence, then how can you then identify problems? How can you then support your child? Because for example, I can tell my son when he's had a bad day at school because so and I have that discussion. But if her son's upstairs or outside, and then when they're in the house, she's not even aware of because some of the stuff you can tell, like drugs in qadanaya, or if by their physical appearance, then it's going to be pretty hard for a mum in it signs. So I think the mum needs to build up her knowledge. The dad, unfortunately, whether he's physically there or not, whether they're not active, they're not even aware. And this horrible Somali culture where we say, you know what, if the kids go good, it's the credit to the dad. Let's be honest, that's how it is. His mum didn't do a very good job and she wasn't aware. And this whole thing about, you're the mum, take that responsibility, mum's really overstretched.
Yeah. So let me ask you about something. You said it starts with knowledge, the parents gaining knowledge. With Isbedel, I know you do workshops, and so if parents wanted to participate in that, how would they get in touch with you, or how would they
So mashallah waxaan haysanaa website baa jira. So what website ma hayo, Facebook baa ka heli karta, Instagram, so look up for Isbedel, you can see the spelling on there. If you look up, you'll find out what's happening. And also the most powerful thing is all the people that are in Isbedel are volunteers. We don't get any government funding. And I think Isbedel is really about making sure that we say, hold on, we're not going to rely on the police and we're not going to rely on the government. We're actually going to start solving our own problems. And actually solving our own problems means the community give time. All these professionals are actually giving their own time back into the community. And then actually, inshallah, when we reach a point where actually maybe then it should be the community that invests inside. So really, if you contact us, there's a group of volunteers, people, young men that have been in the prison system, so they understand what happens behind the scene. Young men that know the streets really well, that work in a professional capacity. Some doctors that obviously in terms of health, nurses, mothers, and community activists. So all these people actually created this amazing workshop that they can adapt and adjust depending on the people that invite them. So there's been a few football sessions where they've been invited to, so they'll do a workshop on the side, and they'll talk about, you know, whatever the young kids themselves need to hear. Some real talk, wallahi, about I've been in the prison system and this is what I saw and you don't want to go there. And this is what our young kids, because they're beautiful on the other side. So actually these boys give them a real smell, you know, wake up call basically. And also parents as well. We've done workshops in East London, lots of parents turned up, where actually the parents have the opportunity, and we invite the police to say, hold on, we want to hold you to account as a Speddel. You know, we want to make a change. That's what Speddel is, the literal meaning of Speddel is change. Not change only getting service providers to change their way, but also the community to start changing and realising what the real fault and the problems are. And then using that, we can actually start solving our own problems.
Yeah, well, that's great. I mean, I wanted to ask you as well, Ahmed, when you're looking for signs, okay, for kids who are getting involved in knife crime, and especially if you know, if we've been in, when we were younger, we know about how everything is and stuff like that. What kind of things do you pick up that shows you a kid is getting involved in knife crime or is going down that path? What are the signs that you see with the kids that you work with?
For me, there's certain different kind of kids. So
yeah,
all the kids have different abilities or different ways that you can see them out.
Right.
But it's like with certain kids is the way they change with the behaviour.
Right.
If their education was good in school and their grades start going down, such as if they go for like missing for like 4 or 5 days, and then the mum has no clue or the dad has no clue of where the boy or the girl's gone. Because it's not only boys right now that are going to countries as well, it's the girls that are doing it as well. So it's like finding certain things, like to find out is what they come home with, their behaviour, attitude, kind of clothes that they're wearing, what they left with, what they come back with.
Just the change in them,
just
you
like
see
the
it.
change in them.
Right. That's pretty much how you. Okay, right. Jamal, what do you think as well? Like, what kind of signs is there?
As Ahmed mentioned, it's very difficult. However, if this is your child, you know him or you know her better than anyone. So when I speak to parents, I let you know, one of the first things I try to understand is, does your child, you know, think he's better than you? Does he disrespect you? Because the moment the child disrespects his parents, you know that, you know, he's picking this up from the street. You know, he's trying, you know, he's got a rep. All of a sudden, when he steps into his house, he doesn't want to be humble anymore. So when you see a lot of the problems is the child always sees the mother as, you know, as they call it, you know, the opposition. So they think, you know, if I do something, you're already in line with, you know, that auntie, this uncle. So it's critical that if the child, you know, is out of character towards his parents, that's an alarming sign for me personally. Because what happens is when I speak to a lot of parents, you know, ones where the kids have been involved in knife crime or, you know, the grades are going down, as Ahmed mentioned, they always say this, you know, he's just rude, he doesn't listen to me. One of the parents said to me last week, when I tell him off, Jamal, he says to me, oh, here we go again. So there, you put your mother in the same category as your teacher, as you know, the person that you see in the corner shop. So there, you know, that disrespect towards your parent is a clear sign that, you know what, you think you're better than the system and your household. Okay, so
that's quite clear, actually.
Ahmed, what I wanted to ask you is, could you tell us a bit about your background? Being involved with or seeing knife crime or knowing people that have been involved in knife crime?
Not just my certain things about me. It's just mainly just basic. Like I got involved in around these kind of activities when I was young. It was just like, for me, it was a choice where I wanted to get into these kind of activities. It wasn't a personal thing where someone drew me into it, or it was someone that
you weren't looking for it yourself. You wasn't,
so it was like me that went to go and look for it. It was something like, just started off with a bunch of friends, started from school, and then once you started from school, just like growing up together, and then just started going into doing mine little things, and then I went my separate way doing my own thing. So I ended up in prison through my time, and then I served about a 3-year sentence. And after I come out of the 3-year sentence, my life changed around. Then I went into like football coaching, mentoring, working with different organisations. But between the gap between prison and while I was on the road, it was a difficult time for me, because there was times where I was getting into fights, there was times where I was getting into problems, there was times where people were chasing me with knives, there was times where I was carrying a knife for my own protection. So it's like at that time we had like we didn't have like these kind of things that we have now, like these mentoring, these programs that are coming on TV, these kind of things. We never had these when we were young.
So when you were that young, sorry to interrupt, what did you feel was missing from your life back then that if you had it back then, you wouldn't have been involved? Was it, you know, activities, or you felt like someone wasn't listening to you, or?
I think it was just like the lack of activities that we had, the lack of support that we could go to. It's like maybe we could go to one community support place that could help us out, and then we don't hear from them again, or we go to another community and then they just tell us we're going to help you with this. But really and truly, for my time, I wasn't really looking for help. I just wanted to do what I was doing. To be honest, it was just about me, and for me just to try and make a quick change if I can make a quick change. So that was my role. For me,
the motive in it was just purely
for me carrying a knife, or for me walking around with a knife, was just for maybe just for my protection.
Okay.
For me personally, it was for my protection, or maybe because it's the lack when you're on the streets. You're more paranoid. You're more like in different kind of a zone. So you're thinking to yourself that I need this.
But now that you work with boys and you have this background, they must kind of feel like they can connect with you, you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of kids that connect with me. There's a lot of workshops that I do with like Spedel. There's a lot of other workshops that I do with other organizations. I go to like parents' houses where I talk to mums. I go to like and restaurants, like Somali restaurants, where I go and talk to the dads. I do workshops within the streets where I go and talk to these kids that are mainly on the streets. I give them advice. Because really and truly, it's like, personally for me, I don't want to see another Somali kid die on the streets. But Wakasta, death is qadarillahi. There's nothing that we can't stop it. But at least if I try and go out there and give my guidance to these kids and try to support them with my kind of knowledge and the things that I have went through, maybe they will understand and they will say, you know what, Ahmed's been through this. How can I change I need to listen to his advice and take his advice on board. So within that time, I just give these kids the advice that I can give them, give these hoyoyin the advice that I can give them, the support I can give them, and that's it.
No, that's really good. I mean, I think that's important what you're saying. I wanted to go back to something that you mentioned earlier on, when you were saying about how to sort of counteract these issues, about having conversations with the kid and having a dialogue. I think there was something that you might have missed. I don't know, maybe you can answer for me, because a lot of the kids that we have today, we had a show last week, we were talking about the language, how there's a lack of Somali in the youth at the moment. So if you as a parent have a good level of English, that's fantastic. You can communicate with your kids and maybe that's how you have the upper hand. But a lot of Somali parents can't do that. So do you feel like you have an advantage because of that? So although do you see what I'm saying? Because you can speak with them in the language that they pretty much understand.
I hear what you're saying, but then I grew up in Tower Hamlets and from primary school. So I remember my mum didn't speak English. In fact, her English is still limited now. And I had a fantastic relationship with my mum. So I think it's really important that we don't just put things in boxes and just say because, you know, you've got this X, Y, and Z, therefore this is what you've got. But yes, definitely, without a doubt, because things are getting worse, aren't they? Not only for our community, Adan people would say to you, oh my God, what's happening? And they're worried about their kids and their relationship, and you know, lots of white kids not going into education, into the system and dropping out. So actually the issue's there. But so then the problem is, marka waxa soo baxaya, as a parent, yes, you need to learn, not the language necessarily, but you need to learn how to have a positive relationship with your child, to communicate with your child. Love, wallahi, is the most powerful thing. If your child respects you and loves you, love is blind, somehow we know that. And this doesn't start when they're 14 and you're trying to control them now, because it won't work. It needs to start when they're little. You need to bond with them. You need to get them stuff that other kids have and not worry. Yes, Somali, you know, Somaliland in terms of sending money back home. but you need to also invest in your kids.
Sah.
You know, you need to give things to your kids, and you need to make sure that you take your kids on holiday, not just back home where they go to the me, but you need to also take them other kids where they can talk about stuff with your kids. So actually that's where the problem is. It's not just about language, because actually love and respect doesn't have to have English. It really doesn't have to have English, wallahi. As I said to you, my mum did not speak English, but I had that beautiful relationship with my mother. And I looked up my mother. Until this day, wallahi, I would not upset my mother in any way. And you know what? How you're raised, and this whole thing about big families, and how you, mashallah, tabarakallah, raised 11 kids in this country. And Abba, alhamdulillah, both of them were together and they supported each other. And alhamdulillah, none of us stood out from the thing. But I've got to be honest, back then, in the 80s, there wasn't much, you know, there were violence, but then you also knew this thing, which is interesting actually, where I'm a Somali. Because I'm Somali, I don't do that. And you would make sure that that doesn't come back, because you know what, there were limited Somali communities and you didn't want things to come back to your door. And we were talking about this before in terms of how the community dynamics have changed from then until wallahi. So for me, I understand that, but it's not just the language, it's about the love, it's about mums actually investing in their time. Now the question is, I keep on saying the mum, because unfortunately it is the mum that's holding the responsibility, it's the mum that's in the house, and the dad, whether like I said to you before or not. And what think he went to get? I went there for a year, Benchogi, and even back home I would say to you that it's the mothers that are running the show, and the dads are busy with other stuff. So actually that's where the problem lies, wallahi, is mums and dads, they need to make sure that they have that positive relationship with their kids. And actually, as a Somali community, we need to support that. And then we need to make sure that our young kids see us positively.
So it's a joint effort.
It's a joint effort from the whole community, not just, you know, you know that saying where actually it takes a community to raise a child, you know, a whole village. Wallahi, we need to create that in everyone is so selfish here, and I'm going to be really ranting on now. The danti gut, that word is so powerful, like the unity, the overall, you know, that umbrella, that Somali umbrella is missing from the community. Everyone's so busy with stuff at home, and actually when a child goes to prison, instead of a mother saying because they don't want no name and shame, and then that means things are rotting in the community and we don't even know, because I would go and help, and I'm sure wallahi all of you guys would go and help that mother when things were getting from bad to worse, but because we're that's where the real problem lies.
So do you not think, like you said before, we've touched on it, but what we mainly have to work on as well is like our perception and our culture, in the sense of, you know, how we label people, or how we're so afraid of being humiliated or our name being damaged just because of an action, instead of focusing on the fact that my child might die, my child might end up going to prison. Like, we're focusing on such...
We need to get our priorities right. We need to get our priorities right. And I'm going to be honest with you, with Isbedel, I don't get paid for Isbedel. Wallahi, the reason I'm involved in Isbedel, because I see Isbedel as being a solution to the problems that we're mentioning now. It's about people knowing that if mum is unable to do it because she's overstretched, and dad is not there because of whatever reason, because of our silly Somali culture, because of circumstances, whatever the reason might be, then actually as a nation, as a Somali, UK nation, America, whatever, worldwide, wherever we are, we need to solve our own problems. If that's not happening at home, then we need to step in and then actually fix the problems, because you know what, wallahi Somali di ilahana asturo. Other people are surprised of what we're doing. We're leading on terms of drugs. So let's be honest, somehow county drugs can county lines can like we're leading on so many things. So actually now we need a real solution. We need to think outside the box. So my pledge to you guys is I'm going to put all my effort and all my hard work in Isbedel, even though I've got my own kids, even though I'm involved in so many different things. I actually urge every single Somali in the UK to pull up their socks. You know what, stop being selfish with your time, saying I haven't got time. You need to give back your time, your intellectual ability. Sadaqah is not just money. Sadaqah is about your intellectual ability. It's about your time. So I'm actually urging every single Somali, give back your time, your passion, your energy back into your community, and stop looking at those pictures of young Somalis dying on the TV and then saying, oh, it's another Somali. What are you doing about it? We know clearly there's a problem. Get up and do something about it. You see, the charity women organisation that I run, I've got random Adam people that aren't even wallahi Muslim or Somali saying, you know what, corporate responsibility, I want to give back to the people in Tower Hamlets. I want to give back to BME people. I want to give back to people that are less deprived, that are more deprived than me, and they're giving back and they're not getting paid. Why are they doing that? It's because of humanity. For the sake of humanity, for the sake of Somalis, for the sake of our community and our future, what are you doing about it? Support. If you're not doing anything else, at least follow Isbedel, support Isbedel. You know, subhanallah, if you can't solve the problem by yourself, we need to come together as a nation and start solving our own problems instead of waiting for someone else to do it.
No, definitely. I totally agree with you. Thank you very much for that. Jamal, coming back to you, do you feel like, as Sister mentioned, is it like a community effort? What needs to be put in place for these things to be effective?
As mentioned before, it is a community effort, but there's something that I keep hearing from our sister, and she's saying that the mother's always raising the household, whether it's in the UK or back home. I think, to be honest with you, because I work with a lot of single mothers, and one thing that I've seen, as much as you blame the youth on the streets, you blame the mothers as well. Why? Because there's a guilt trip here. Yes, as the sister mentioned, take them on holidays, buy them the gifts. So last week I was sitting with two parents down, two Somali mothers that have kids on the streets. One of them said to me, my son is 13 and I bought him a MacBook Pro, £2,000. Jamal, I'm doing everything I can for him. And the other one mentions I give my son an iPhone X. He's only 12, 13, and that's where the problem is. So you teach this kid what an iPhone X is, £1,000 worth of phone, laptop £2,000. He wants trainers that are £100, and then you're giving it to him one-off once a year, every Eid, whatever it is. However, when that kid becomes 15, now he knows the value of what he's wearing, or the latest trends, and he wants to put on Instagram, social media, and now who funds that? So again, as much as the father's not in the house, the mother's a problem as well, because she funds or she teaches that child things that are not important and unrealistic. So there's no point in giving that child such expensive items when you can't fund it.
Sorry, we're going to continue. I just want to let our viewers know that we're going to be opening up the phone lines. So if you want to call in, please call in. Yeah, sorry. Continue.
Yes. So having said that, there's another problem that we have. Yes, there are Somali professionals that are, wherever they are in the world, that are doing fantastic work. However, what I've failed to see is, Somali programs for fathers. There's no event that dedicated just to the fathers, because what happens is, even if the father's at home, he may be a father who's negative, or who is unable to connect with that child, because his image of success is different to the child's image of what success is.
Right.
And then the other issue that you have, that Somali kid, let me tell you something, all the Somali kids that I've worked with, they are heavily criticized. They may be, have failed GCSE, they may be, they may have picked up business or hair and beauty in uni, and all of a sudden the whole community comes down on them like a ton of bricks. What do you want this kid to do? What do you want him to do? That's the first one. The second problem is, we don't have in terms of success. So the Somalis that work in the corporate world need to step up, because a kid, when he sees, hey, look, Mohammed works in, this bank, this person works for this organization, you can aspire to them.
Yeah.
So the issue that we have here is lack of role models, lack of awareness, and the mothers funding and teaching these kids unnecessary things, because you can't fund him now. He's going to go and make that money on the streets.
Let me ask you, how do parents set realistic expectations, and how do they set these boundaries without, not providing too little, but at the same time not providing too much?
Okay, so again, it's very difficult, because you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. However, for me, I'm a parent myself, so my son, I don't give him everything that he asks me for. I can have a problem with him. No, it's fine. I give you a reward based on your achievement. So, Daddy, I want this. I say, okay, you have to work for it. Because let me tell you something about the elite. The elite, if your son gets a C in school, the father will say, John, fantastic, here's a bike. Well done. So John goes away thinking, I was given a bike and I had a C. What is Daddy going to give me when I get a B?
Positive reinforcement.
Positive reinforcement. Now with the Somalis, the kid comes home and says, Hoya, I got an A. She can say, what's that? Go back, get A star. What reward have you given him? And then, as she mentioned, when he's 13, 14, and he's starting to understand and he compares the mother with other mothers now, then you want to give him the love. It's too late.
But do you think parents even understand the value of incentives?
I don't think parents, especially from ethnic minorities, understand incentives, because they want you to see how much they've struggled as a parent. But really, they should also see how hard you've worked as a parent at the same time. And we need to stop comparing our kids to other children. So that's what I think. So I think we need to start giving to our kids and start rewarding them for their achievements and being involved and having having interaction with your child.
Yeah, thank you, Jamal. We're just going to go over to Safia that wanted to comment on that.
Well, I totally agree, Jamal, in terms of giving too much reward to kids is negative. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. If parents are so overstretched, they're putting out fire. Let's be honest, they're putting out fire because and they want to stop them from dibadda. So they dibadda ka qabanayan ay doonayn moodana dibadda u bixin. What and their son's asking for stuff, and we already know there's communication barrier, there's no bond there. What are you supposed to do? What, allow them to go outside and make their own way, money from drugs and stuff like that? Because that's a huge issue.
What age are we talking here?
So what age were you talking about?
So I mentioned a 12, 13-year-old. So clearly, it's illegal for a 12, 13-year-old to work. But when I was growing up, I remember doing paper rounds. So every morning, I'll tell Hoyo, listen, Hoyo, I'm going outside 7 a.m. before school. And then, I'll get £20 a week. Or I'll work Saturdays in the market, get £30 a week. So I'll do both of them, that's £50 a week. Look, if your child is 13, 14, you're better off getting him to do work in the house or in the school, achieving, putting hard work in, then give him the £50 as an incentive.
And I
don't
totally agree
buy
with
Mac
that.
Pro.
That's really good. But on the other hand, if you're the parenting system that you're talking about, let's be honest, the Western parenting system where we understand reward and the concept of reward and working with the child and bonding and doing a program and achievement. That's why I Somalis don't know that, and that's the problem. They don't know that, and this is all foreign to them. Foreign language, foreign culture, foreign system, foreign fitna, foreign knife crime. So they're wallahi trying to survive. And I'll tell you how bad the situation is. Do you know Somali women have been identified as having huge mental health issues, the highest increase in the London borough of Tower Hamlets? And that for me echoes and is a clear sign of how much difficulties and challenges that our Somali mothers face, wallahi, because when they're overstretched and they're just trying to not sink.
So I think you mix two things there. So if they're overstretched, what do? Do they go and start funding the child's whatever he wants? That's the first problem. The other problem, as I mentioned, there are many organizations across the country that are doing a lot of work, be it Somali or from other backgrounds. Now, I haven't seen workshops specifically for parents. So, for example, we're going to do a knife crime only for Somali mothers. We're going to do housing solutions for Somali parents, whatever it is. So I think that the first instance here is to create some sort of awareness. Then when you get the mother on your side, then it's easier to use the mother to get the child now. But what's happened is, what I've seen is, you attack the mother from one angle, then the child, it's a confusion.
So it's quite confusing.
It's quite confusing. That's where the problem is. So I think we need to target, it's a multi-layer problem here. So we've got a government problem here, we've got a social housing problem here, we've got a poverty problem here, we've got a parent problem here, we've got the children problem here. But what everyone is doing is, they are targeting the young people on the streets. Really, they are 50% of the problem. If they are 50% of the problem, believe me, they are 50% of the solution.
But Jamal, wouldn't the solution be what Safia said, then coming together as a unity and then doing all these things together to tackle it from different sides all at once?
Yes, you're right.
We need to come together.
We need to come together, but not necessarily everyone doing the same thing. So if Somali organizations come together, you have, for example, one organization that's focused on youth and young adults. You've got one focused on mental health. You've got one focused on, education. Come together and start giving each other your own responsibilities so you can target different groups. because knife crime and mental health is two different things. So you can't use one organisation to tackle both problems. So it becomes very confusing, and it becomes.
Don't you agree that they interlink? They have something to do with each other.
I think they're interlinked because it's a socio-economic problem. So where you're from, because you don't see kids being stabbed to death in Knightsbridge or in Chelsea. So clearly we have a socio-economic problem here. So what we need to do is everyone needs to, for example, if I've worked my way up and I've left the area as a Somali, I need to come back and say, hey guys, listen, this is what I did. Just try to save one person. Yeah. But it doesn't mean I need to work with another person because he's going to drive me onto mental health. I don't work with mental health. Oh, she's going to tell me, let's do education. Yeah. That's not my speciality. So if we are to work together, you need everyone to work on what they're...
Have a clear focus.
Have a clear focus. Right now, it's
and that's and thank you very much for that. That's really, really important. Focus is very, very important in this. So I just want to go to Ahmed. Do you have a point to make regarding that?
No, I was just... What the brother said right there, Jamal, was very good. But me, like, I do football coaching, and most likely for youth kids.
Yeah.
Within the organisations that I work with and all the other different football clubs that I work with, from the likes of teams in North London, teams in West London, South London, there's not even like academies. There's not a lot of Somali kids that are active through football.
Right.
There's not a lot of Somali kids that are active through sports. I don't know why this is. Until now, I'm still trying to understand one of the reasons why a lot of Somali kids ain't involved in football, boxing, rugby, these kind of things. So for me personally,
do you not think it's because our culture really doesn't put a lot of importance into activities? We don't see the importance of activities. We only see the importance of science, maths.
Yeah,
get you to become an engineer or a doctor.
But that's the kind of things that are pulling these kids into the streets, and this is what the parents that don't understand. Like when I talk to these parents and I give them these guidance and I give them these advice, I tell them that the kids, you know what the problem that we have, and the biggest problem that we have right now is our kid comes from school, straight to tuition, comes back from tuition, straight to homework.
Ahmad.
Yeah.
So it's more education, nowhere to really,
and then he's closed down. And then when he gets to like the age of 15, he has more freedom because he's older. But when he's like 11 to 12, there's only like Duxi, school, come back from Duxi, and then tuition, then mosque.
And so you would say activities are really important.
Yeah, they don't give a lot of our people. They don't give our kids a lot of activities. And like I was saying, with me working with all these different football clubs, and I've been in South London with coaching with Somali teams. I've been in North London coaching with Somali teams. I've been in South West London coaching with a lot of teams. When I go to these teams, I see that there's only 2 or 3 Somali kids based in this team.
Yeah.
And like if you tell the parent, okay, your son is good enough to make it into our academy.
Yeah.
And then like I'll give you an example. 2 years ago I was a coach at White Stars, and then we had this kid, very quality player, brilliant player, ability was so good, Somali player. We said to the parent, your son is very good, this club is looking at him, can you take him to the 6 weeks trial?
Yeah.
Took him first week, second week now, third week now. After the 3rd week, they're gonna tell you know what? There's no point.
Yeah.
Like we try to push these kids and give these kids the opportunity to try to get them into like games, get them into like matches. But the parents are not the ones that are pushing them.
Yeah.
And then later on, these kids end up on the streets, and then they lose that confidence of going back to activities or going back to do something.
Exactly, and that's the point that we wanted to sort of stress as well. Is a lot of times what happens is because our Somali parents, the Somali parents in general, they only, as Amina rightly mentioned, they only like to emphasize on certain things, like academic side of things.
Let us ask you, Sophia.
In academia.
How important is activities in your children's life? Or
I think it's really important. Wallahi, you have to have a balance in terms of their life, because obviously you're enriching them, you're giving them positive activity, you're negating them from joining negative activities, and obviously the more they're busy with all that dopamine in their brain, it's a positive thing, wallahi. But actually talking about academic, girls, obviously we know Somali girls achieve better academically.
Yeah.
Somali boys don't. And actually one of the biggest things thing when we looked at Isbedel, because we did a brainstorming session. We had all these professionals that looked at what are some of the issues. So the main issues, like we said, it's about parenting, it's about upbringing, the mums are overstretched, the fathers aren't there, it's about society, and also one of the key issues that we touched on was the educational system. So for example, when young Somali kids go into school, you know, for example, if I just stick to my borough, that I'm from East London, you know, the highest exclusion rates of one ethnicity were the Somali ethnicity, and it was Somali boys that were being chucked out. And actually, when you go into those schools and you communicate with those schools, it was about you know, slowly not respecting the teachers, the kids feeling discriminated against. And again, because I was actually with a group of teachers the other day, it's not about whether they're discriminating. Actually, it's the belief or the assumption that the child believes the system is against them. They believe the teacher's targeting them and being unjust. And actually, then psychologically, the damage that does when a young kid actually believes, as a teacher, you're against me because I'm Somali, because I'm Muslim, whatever the reason might be, then they start rebelling against the teachers. Then their relationship gets bad, and then the whole authority concept of respecting a teacher goes out of the window. And when you've got a young child who does not respect a system, and they go onto the road or they go back home, they think, okay, Hoya question garay, disrespect Hoya. You know, what is this? They question the hierarchy system, but they don't believe in it. Wallahi, and they believe her. So, and you've got the young kids and they're developing brains and all that energy, and then they go onto the streets, and then they don't respect or follow the system. And so I think actually one of our biggest wallahi problems that we need to work on is actually what's happening in the school. And I'll give you some sad story, and I've said this story so many times, so some people might have heard of this story, and wallahi this is a true story, because we deal with schools, and there was two protests done in Tower Hamlets, and you know, 2 years ago was the first one, and the following year another one was done. In a school, in the sports session, there was one Somali boy that wanted to kick a ball. The Asian boy, wallahi, in that class, and we went all the way to Ofsted Belagersi, the Asian boy said to the Somali boy, don't kick that ball. And this is a secondary school. The Somali boy said, who are you? I'm going to kick the ball. So the Somali boy kicked the ball. Then the Asian boy went to the Asian teacher, and I'm not saying all Asian teachers are racist, I'm just giving you a picture of what the true reality is. The Asian boy went to the teacher. The teacher said to the Somali boy, stand against the wall for kicking the ball. And that's fine, I can digest that, because maybe he didn't listen to a rule. But the teacher got all the other 7 Somali boys out of the same class, wallahi, and made all the Somali boys stand against the wall. One Somali does that, all of them do it. What on earth have you done to all those kids? You've said that you are nothing, that no one will stand up for you. Mums did not even take their kids out of the school, because I'm like, I don't like to hell with this system. But the kids actually then were punished. They're upset. They've got all that anger, all that frustration of being treated and discriminated against. And the local authority ended up saying it's an independent school, so we can't deal with it. So in a nutshell, what we're doing is these schools are actually damaging their kids. I'm not saying all the schools are doing that, and sometimes it isn't true. They've convinced themselves that people are against them, and that's what you do actually. As a young person, you often think the system's against you, people are against you.
Let me ask you something, Safia. Like, I have a friend that's a teacher, and she told me she's seen that teachers tend to be more involved with certain students when they know their parents are more involved with them, with the school. I'm
going to be honest with you, they did try with my kids in the school, and I went in there, I would tell my child off. I would never be those parents, and I advise parents never to be those parents that stick up for their kids regardless of what their child does. You have to have a balance, and you have to teach your child that you will stick up for them when they're victims, and you will stand with the teacher when the child is in the wrong. So you've got to keep that balance. But Waruta, they know not to mess with me. The amount of emails I would do to you whenever they looked at my child. But also a lot of kids will say to you, actually, remember, go back to, and the dad's not active. So even if the dad's in the house or not, so they would come to me, and so many times, and that's why I know about this case and so many other cases, they'll come to the organisation and tell us to get involved, and obviously from Isbeddel's perspective, we get involved in terms of trying to make sure that we give voice to those people that don't have a voice. So actually, the kids will say to you, and some of them were shaki bakuchira, they would say that, you know, subhanallah, in a nutshell, that the parents have, the child would say that this person had a hood on, and I had a hood on. But the teacher didn't tell the other child off, she pulled me up. I had my bag on, I had my earphones on. I've seen this teacher so many times not say anything to that child, and she only looked at me. what psychological damage is happening to our kids in the school? We need to ask ourselves, wallahi, and we need to get involved with schools as mentors. Offer our, if you've got Somali professionals, offer your time and your energy to schools and say, actually, I want to be a mentor. There's mentor schemes that the schools do. Volunteer your time, because and he sees a Somali man coming in to tell him about their amazing career. That's like, subhanAllah, inspiration on another level that money cannot possibly pay for. And also teaching. Go into teaching, go into policing, go into council. We as a community make sure that we need to be a part of everything, because ultimately that's where the decision making it happens. That's where children actually see the system either for them or against them. We need to be a part of the system.
Yeah. Thank you everyone. Do you want to give some?
I just want to add to what our sister said. Because I work with a lot of young boys. Yes, the school is where our children are failing, because the school is it's a one fix for everything. So, two things I want to touch upon is, if a kid is 14, 15 and he's selling drugs, that means that's not an academic person. Okay, this person is into buying and selling. So you take him away from the drugs, give him some sort of responsibility, and get him to sell things. It might be bananas, fruits, whatever it is. So this person has got a drive for for business, or you might have someone else who's working in a school. So it's different. So in the school, parents focus on English, maths, and science. However, the kid says, "Teacher, when I grow up, I want to be a doctor." The teacher says, "No, Abdi, you're not a doctor. Why don't you look into, business management? Or why don't you look into IT or XYZ?" Is the teacher wrong for saying that? It's a very tough answer, because I agree with why the teacher is saying this, and I disagree with the teacher as well. The reason why they're saying this to the child is because, look at doctors. There is someone in their family that has been a doctor, whether it's distant family member or direct. So when a teacher realizes, look, your father's not around, your mum's not, she doesn't work in the corporate world, so you know what, you're aiming too high, so don't waste your time on that. So she's giving advice to the child, thinking that it suits him. Now this is where our young professionals come in and say, "Mohammed, you want to be a doctor? Let me show you, because I came from this household," because they're not living, the best parts of London. So this is why we need to come back and say, look, this person wants to be, an engineer, I will help you. This person wants to be, wants to go to medical school, I will help you. You understand? So it's very tough. So I will tell you, and I'll finish on this. When I was in school in year 10, year 11, the teacher gathered all Somalian boys, as you mentioned, Tower Hamlets, but this happened to me. He brought 25 Somalian boys in the year. So we all sat down, and he said to us, detention. So he said to us, "How many of your fathers have a degree?" 25 Somali boys in the class. None of us put our hands up. He said, "How many of your mothers have a degree?" Again, no one put their hand up. So it went on. How many of your uncles? How many of your brothers? So no one really put their hand up apart from one friend. He said, "My brother has a degree." So he said to us, and believe me, he said this to us. He said, "And this is why all of you lot will fail. This is why all of you lot will not go on to get a degree, because you don't have the role models in your house to that you can look up to. So you'll all become, basically, you're setting up yourself to fail." Today, for example, and I really don't want to say this on, I've got a master's degree in English that I don't use. Why did I get a master's degree? So a teacher in this country will never have that same discussion with my son. I only got that master's degree from my child, so a teacher can never look to him and degrade him. And this is the problem. So us as young professionals really need to come out and save our kids from being degraded. We are the lowest of society. Prisons, Somali kids. Low paid jobs, Somali kids. Domestic violence, Somali families. Mental health, we're suffering. So I don't know when you guys are going to wake up. That's my only message to
Thank you,
everyone.
Jamal. We're going to have to wrap up, but I want to ask you all to give your last remarks. So, Jamal, I'm going to ask you, for the fathers that are watching, what advice would you give them?
I will say to the fathers, these kids that you brought into this world, they're not cows and sheep. You just don't leave them in the field to fend for themselves. You really brought them into this world. You will be asked about them. So what I say is, help your child. You have a problem with the mother, so the mother says to you, you're not seeing this child. And you as a father, she doesn't allow you to see the child, so you stop supporting this child. And now what happens is that child becomes a lost, a human being. Look, it's a child who his father passed away will make it out than the child that his father walked out on him, because he doesn't understand why his father left. So the neglect here is very, very painful. So half the kids in prisons today are kids that come from broken homes, are being excluded from school. As a father, there are things that I do with my son. I take him to rugby, for example. It's not my wife's role to stand in a place where these people, she's covered up. So I have that much jealousy for her, not even just for the child, to even take them. You take them to activities, walk with them. There's activities that only the father can do with the child. Jump in the pool with them, do things with them.
So basically what you're saying is fathers need to be
No, father, listen, you need to come and get your kids, because I can't save all of your kids. So that's my only message to them. Come get your kids.
Thank you, Jamal. Ahmed, what advice would you give to the young boys and girls that are watching?
I've just told my young brothers and my young sisters just to keep their head up, stay in school, stay away from all these activities that are going on. Don't trust nobody that you don't know. Don't talk to a stranger that you've never seen before. If anybody that, this is something that I personally want to say as well.
Yeah.
Anybody comes to you, says to you, you know what, here's a £5, don't take it. Don't take anybody that you don't know, don't take money off, because that's when the problems will come in. So a lot of the brothers and a lot of the sisters that are watching this, keep safe. Learn from the mistakes that maybe I did, learn from the mistakes that other people have did. But it's like, just keep your head up, look out for yourself, and if you need any help, come through Spedel, come through other organizations, you'll find me, I'll be there for you. And I'm here to support
There's support
me.
Here for them.
Yeah, I'm here to support, I'm here to give the brothers and the sisters a guidance.
Yeah.
And inshallah, I hope that every Somali kid in this world in the hayastoro.
Thank you. Sophia, what advice would you give to the mothers that are watching?
Wow, hooyooyinka daawanayda ma Soomaali baan ku hadlay wallahi, hooyooyinka wallahi runtii anu ma maagayo. Absolutely, wallahi xabad qaladay horta leeyihiin ma jirto, way dadaalayaan. Caruur badan bay noo koriyeen oo dhaleen. waxay guri bay iyagu wadaan, haday noqoto biilashi bay wadaan, caruurtii mid kasta xanaaneyntii u baahnaayeen bay wadaan, dabadii hawshii dabada la sugaya, dawladii waxay ku tiri shaqo ama kiradaadan ka joojinaya, yacni iskuulkii bay la diirgareynay, shoppingkii baa sugaya, billskii baa sugaya, adduun oo dhan baa sugaya. Imikana waxa ku soo kordhay knife crime iyo caruurtaadii ilaaliyo shelter garay, caruurtaadii dhibaato ka jira. Marka anigu waxaan ku warnaa hooyinka wallahi shaqo fiican baa wadaan oo inaka laftiina caafimaadkiina maskaxaysa ka warsanaya hawshan haya, laakiin waxa loo baahan yahay kulli dhibaato weyn baan haysan xoogiini iyo Ilaahay noo barakeeyeen aan ka kacna fadhiga. Hadda inaku qaban kari waadeen hawshii dhibaato nagu noqotay, waxa loo baahan yahay marka isbedel ururkan imika soo baxay ee yiri ma doona wax lacag aan ku istafiido dhalinyar badan oo tacliim haysto macallimiin ah, doctoriin aan nasiin baa yiri aan dantii guud ka wadnaaye baynaku garab taagnaado caawiya caruurtiina waxay ku caawinayaan ha caawiyaan. fadhigii baa laga kacay, waa la fahmay sheekaduna aad u culus tahay, laakiin hadday imika dhalinyartan yiraahdeen waxbaan qabanana yaana iska daalina niyad jabina inakuna soo kaca xoogiini ducadiini maalkiini ku caawiya. Imika xaafadan deganahay anako agents ku every year summer holidays every holiday caruurtooda way saaran residential trip bay geeyaan oo diin bay u soo dhigaan, positive role model bay u soo sameeyaan. Anako waan haysana maanta ilmo badan oo Soomaaliya tacliimo oo Jamaal kamid yahay, Ahmed kamid yahay oo arkaya runtii roadka dhibaatada ka jira. Maadaama hadday yiraahdeen waxbaan qabana dhalinyartay soo kaceen, inakuna caawiyo la qabta oo caruurtiini maanta kulliba u dhiitin dad aan muslimiin aan ahayn, isku diin aan ahayn, isku dhaqan aan ahayn. Waxa loo baahan yahay anaku dantayda garanayno. Saanu waxaan ugu oran lahaa as the young Somali mums as well, we need to make sure that we unite, that we support each other, that we make sure that we solve our own problems. And if we can't do it, as an individual, if you can't do it, then support people like Isbedel that are willing to go the extra mile, to be creative in the way that we solve our own problems. If they're willing to go the extra mile, what you need to do is make sure that you stand by them, that you support them with your intellectual, with your finance, with your motivation, with even just words. Well, like follow them on social media if you can't do anything else. So we make sure that we have an umbrella that's united, that solves its own problem, that inshallah that we will not wait for the council or the government to solve our own problems.
Thank you. I just want to say a huge thank you to you all panelists for taking part today. I want to say thank you to Dalmar for giving us this opportunity and Somaliland TV UK. And please follow our social medias, Dood_Wadag_. We're going to be sharing all the social medias of Ispidal as well. So to all the young professionals out there, it's time that you know, give back to your community. There's always something you can do, and this youth, they all need us. So please, whether it's mentoring, anything, just get involved. Thank you.